Well, now the UK economy returned to growth in November, but only just. Output rose by 0.1%. The Chancellor promised to fight every day to foster growth, accepting that government plans had to go further and faster. Our economics reporter Neil MacDonald is here. Well, Neil, how close are we then to a recession?
Well, it does feel like we're skirting pretty close to the edge. I mean, as you were saying, Kathy, output in November up by 0.1%. The previous month, it was down by 0.1%. So it looks like it's all coming down to December, unless there are some helpful revisions. Now, pretty much any uptick in activity would be enough to ensure that the fourth quarter of the year stays at least flat, and that would mean no recession starting at least now. How much do we need? Well, I can tell you 0.07%. So to avoid recession, we need to find 0.07% of growth from somewhere.
Oh, I can manage that, can't we?
Well, you'd hope so. It's not guaranteed. I want to show you a chart of a widely followed measure of business activity from S&P Global. Now, they ask companies how things are going. If the balance is above 50, that tends to suggest the economy is growing. And you can see how basically for the last 6 months, it has been tracking down towards that 50 level. I mean, the December reading was still just about in positive territory. We do get some concrete information tomorrow at 7 a.m. Retail sales figures for December will show how the shops are doing. So it feels like tomorrow is going to be another anxious day for the Chancellor on the statistical front.
Yeah, one of many. What about the broader picture for the economy then?
I think there's a feeling that if you're arguing over, 0.1% of economic growth, it does show how much the economy is on a knife edge. That's November. I want to show you the monthly figures going back over the last year, because essentially it's been the same pattern now for really quite a long period of time. The Conservatives, of course, would say those strong figures at the start of the year are proof that their inheritance that they left was a lot better than Labour claim. I mean, Labour counter that by saying it's not about a couple of months of good figures, it's the previous 14 years. But if you leave that to one side, if you take all those little ups and downs together, the reality is that output in November is basically where it was all the way back in March.
So what's likely to happen this year, 2025?
Well, despite all those gloomy figures, I mean, most economists still think that things will pick up. And a lot of that is to do with the October budget. And while that was, very controversial with businesses who said that that increase in national insurance will mean that they employ fewer people, they raise their prices, it does mean that Rachel Reeves is spending more money through public sector pay, through investment. And a lot of economists think that eventually they will make these monthly figures start to turn up.